I reached the following proposition. The current political system is not working. I had not heard the Roger Ailes story, but the truth is Roger was right. What was not all that happy in 1988 was worse in 92, even worse in 96, stunningly bad in 2000, and in 2004 was almost unendurable. For the most powerful nation on earth to have an election in which swift boat veterans versus National Guard papers becomes a major theme verges on insane. I mean, it's just, and to watch those debates I found painful for both people. They're both smarter than the debates. But here's what's happened. We have invented a system where we replace big city machine bosses with consultant bosses. Read the newspaper coverage. Who's your pollster? What advertising firm have you hired? Who's your consultant? Who did you hire in Iowa? Who did you hire in South Carolina? This is the new Boston. And what's the job of the candidate in this world? The job of the candidate is to raise the money, to hire the consultants, to do the focus groups, to figure out the 30-second answers, to be memorized by the candidate. This is stunningly dangerous. I was referring to a process by which candidates spend more and more time raising less and less money. And that's maniacally how we count it. Who came in first last quarter? How many consultants can they hire? We don't say, who has thought through? It's actually captured. Tim Russert asked Governor Cuomo at one point, who would be your party's best candidate? And instantly, Mario turned and said, Tim, shouldn't you ask me who I think would be the best president? Let's think about the difference. Then you combine this stultifying, exhausting, shrinking process with the way that these auditions have occurred. These aren't debates. This is a cross between The Bachelor, American Idol, and Who's Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And on top of that, you have the challenge of the news media, which unfortunately was taught by a cross between H.L. Mencken's cynicism and Theodore White's wonderful writing, but focused far too much on politics as a horse race. And on unavoidable desire for gotcha. And what does that do? It turns the candidates into rigidity. Because if a candidate says something in March of 2007, and in the course of the campaign they learn something fundamentally different, and they mature and they change, and in August or September or October they adopt a new position based on having grown during the year, they will promptly have flip-flopped. And so you begin to trap people as the campaigns get longer. You're asking a person who's going to be sworn in January of 2009 to tell you what they'll do in January of 2007 when they haven't got a clue. Because they don't know what the world will be like. And you're suggesting they won't learn anything through the 2 years of campaigning. It was John F. Kennedy campaigning in West Virginia, being horrified by poverty, which profoundly changed him in 1960. And so we now have a system that is overly focused on money, overly delegated to technicians, and in which candidates are held to a rigidity standard that is very dangerous, while their answers are held to a soundbite and 30-second standard, which is just, frankly, absurd. What's your answer on Iraq in 30 seconds? What's your answer on health care in 30 seconds? Let me carry it one step further and then describe what we're trying to do. And we're trying to lay all of this out at American Solutions, where we'll have nationwide workshops on September 27th and to September 29th on the Internet that will be available to everybody at no charge. And all of the polling we do at American Solutions is made available to all the candidates in both parties. But our goal is to try to create on the Internet a solutions lab where people can participate almost like a Wikipedia, and they can focus on solutions. I think this country is so sick of red versus blue, and the country is so ready to go back to being red, white, and blue, that there's an enormous gap between the political news media system and the average American. Here's the proposal, which is exactly parallel to Marvin. excuse me, I believe that every candidate should be challenged to commit that if they are their party's nominee, they will agree to meet once a week, and Sunday night would be fine with once a week, with their main opponent, and the two of them would have a dialogue. There are two core premises. The first is that it has to be open-ended. You should give the answer the length your answer should be. And the second is it should be focused on a series of large questions around which people would be expected to bring solutions. And I believe two things would happen. I believe, first of all, an amazing percent of the American people would watch, and in the age of the Internet, all of the dialogue would be cached and people could go back to it, people would analyze it, people would take it apart. I believe, second, the candidates would grow and change. And I think the American people would have a very good sense after 9 90-minute conversations in their living room. The American people would have a remarkable sense of the two personalities and which person they thought had the right ideas, the right character, the right capacity to be a leader. Now, this requires the candidates to take a risk. But I want to close with this thought. The Founding Fathers did not invent this process for the enrichment of consultants or the cynical maneuvering of those who seek power. The Founding Fathers invented this process to enable the American people to determine who they would lend power to. And the process should start with, what is the kind of campaign the American people need in order to have the kind of country the American people deserve, in order to give our children and grandchildren the kind of future that our parents and grandparents worked and fought to give us. I think that ought to be the challenge for every candidate in both parties, and I do think committing to 9 dialogues, one a week for 90 minutes for 9 weeks, would remarkably improve the quality of the system and remarkably improve the training of the candidates. Thank you very, very much.